Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first installment of Takeoff. I am your one and only host, Kyle Fahey. So first, saying this is the first episode, let me just go out there and say, follow at the Jet Take. We are, I guess you want to say, the child of the Jet Take. This is our branch to the YouTube community, trying to make an effect out there. So if you like it, like, subscribe, and then, of course, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, at the Jet Take. Nonetheless, it's day 2 of draft night, and I'm here with Kyle Smith from AFC East Bros, the one and only. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, Kyle. I'm doing pretty good. Little confused by what we're doing, but I can't say that I hate it. But doing pretty good by and large, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of fans are feeling the way you do when you say confused. Let's talk about the 6th overall pick. I personally think it's an absolute steal for where we got him and where he was ranked overall, at least in my opinion. Jamal Adams, strong safety, LSU, your thoughts?
In terms of talent and position value, it's hard for me to say that it's an absolute steal, but you're hoping that all the intangible stuff makes up for it and helps make it an absolute steal. Because Brian Dawkins, I'm sure he was a decent athlete, but I think he was a late-round pick, if I understand correctly, maybe even a second-round pick. But we're hearing the comps to him, like with Jamal Adams, the leadership ability. People like Brett Coleman were saying that he was named a captain as a true freshman, and this kid is just a supreme leader. And when you look at the Jets franchise and take things like last year, for example, Muhammad Wilkerson's supposed to be a leader, right? This guy supposedly for multiple years missing meetings, can't even show up to his own birthday. You just inked a big $85 million contract and you're not showing up to stuff. What does that say to the lower end guys? Hey, listen, man, I'm a big cat and I'm doing what I want. Follow my example and you'll get paid too. You can skip out on stuff and still get paid. But hopefully Adams, he brings a culture change about to the Jets because they need that. There's no doubt. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, and he is a damn good player. And Fahey, I want you to talk about this. Speak about the versatility because everybody's been talking about Calvin Pryor. I'm not a fan of Calvin Pryor. You're not a fan of Calvin Pryor. And we're saying that Adams is more versatile. So would you like to explain his versatility?
Yeah, I think that's another part of why I think Todd Bowles fell in love with him. According to reports, Jamal Adams was number 1 on their board, which makes me wonder where was Myles Garrett on that board. But that's not the topic at hand. His versatility is phenomenal. He was asked to play free safety for LSU. He did it at a fairly high level. If I were to grade him as a free safety, he probably would have been a late second-round pick. So that tells you what he can do on the other side of the field. And then also you can go ahead and put him in at nickel or slot if you really need to at corner. He has the athleticism and the physical traits to do it. And I wouldn't put him in the top 4 rounds at that, but still, you don't always have to be a top 4 guy to come in and be productive for your team. So just the versatility from Jamal Adams is exceptional. And I think that's why most scouts, and including myself, not saying I'm a scout, but fell in love with this dude. I watched a healthy amount of tape, and between the Alabama and Florida game, knowing what those individual teams bring to the table, if the certain schemes and weapons they have, I think his game is going to translate very well to the NFL.
Yeah, one thing that the Jets front office and coaching staff said is that he, quote, checked off all the boxes. And, when we're talking about versatility, that's the way that the NFL is played nowadays. Yep. You need guys that can – because it's all about disguising things. I mean, there's only so many things that you can do in terms of, schematics, X's and O's. I mean, there's only so many different ways that you can cover the field. However, it's all about tricking and disguising the quarterbacks because they're good. All the rules are going to favor them. You can't press them too hard, but how can you trick them? But in order to do that, you need guys that, like, for example, look at what Coach Sean McDermott, what he's doing currently with the Buffalo Bills. If you look at his defenses in Carolina the past couple of years, and they've been pretty good by and large, he's had players that are very versatile. Luke Kuechly, he can scream down the A gap on a blitz. He's good in run support, but he's also a guy that he can fake the A gap blitz and then drop back into coverage. And you're hoping that with both these guys, both Marcus Maye and Jamal Adams, they can do that. And speaking to Adams' versatility, this is per Pro Football Focus. His snap breakdown in 2016, 41% of the snaps at free safety, 32% at corner, 13% at strong safety, and 14% at linebacker. That's a guy that's clearly he can be played in multiple different spots, and he's excelled in those different spots. He's a damn good tackler. PFF, certain people, I think it was John Cusco, was saying that in his mind, Jamal Adams was the best safety prospect as well as the best corner prospect. Now, I think that's hyperbole, but you have to be damn good for someone to even say that type of praise. So when you look at Bowles, he likes to put people in different places. It's obviously a good pick for the Jets. This guy's going to be a good player. The question is just going to be how good.
Yeah, and I think with, taking him at the 6th pick, he better be pretty good, pretty fast, in my opinion. And you look at what Todd Bowles did, like you nodded to earlier, in Arizona with the safeties that he had. Tyrann Mathieu, Tony Jefferson, both very versatile, can play either strong safety or free safety. Both also been known to play corner at times. So it seems like Todd Bowles definitely likes his back-end safeties a certain way. Now the question raises, because there was also a second-round pick tonight. We'll dive into this in a second. But where does this leave Calvin Pryor and Marcus Gilchrist? And who do you think would get cut out of those two or traded or whatever happens because of the pick of Jamal Adams right now? Then we'll dive into the second-round pick.
There's no way you cut Calvin Pryor. I mean, the kid's still young, 25, 26 years old. There's going to be some team in the league
who wants him.
It's going to want that kid.
Yeah.
They'll take him for a late-round pick, whether it's a 5th, 6th, or 7th. You'll get someone who's going to take a flyer on him. Because he can be used in a certain role, and if you play him and only keep him in certain packages, he'll at least be okay at doing that. He's an NFL player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So you don't cut him. Marcus Gilchrist, you got basically no value for him. He's coming off a patella tear. That is a big-time injury. He's older. People have already seen him. He's on his 2nd contract. Really, what value do you have for him here? I mean, you spent a premium pick on both these safeties, 6 and 39. Those are premium picks. We're talking top 10 of each of those 2 rounds.
Yep.
Those are instant starters. Starters. So both of those guys are off this roster. They will not be on the Jets roster for the 2017 season.
Yeah, I agree. Ben and I were discussing what we should possibly do with Calvin Pryor. And, we both brought up possibly packaging Calvin Pryor and one of our 3rd-round picks, maybe move up into the 2nd round, maybe go pick up another pick at some point. Let's dive into our 2nd-round pick, 39th overall. Free safety, Marcus Maye, University of Florida. I'll say, as a Gator fan, I think we're getting a really, really good player and a really good value pick here. What are your thoughts on him?
It's tough for me to say. I watched a decent amount of Jamal Adams prior to the draft. But Marcus Maye, I haven't watched a single snap. Most of what I've seen about him is that people, really like him. They're high on him. Ian Wharton is someone who I respect, and he does a lot of work with defensive backs, especially more so corners than safeties. He wasn't so high on Maye, but he's the only guy I know that really did not like Maye and thought he was kind of like a day 3 type of guy. But what is appealing to me is supposedly he's another high-character guy, and It seems like those are the type of guys that Mike McCagnon wants. And, hey, at the end of the day, high-character guys are guys that you give a 2nd and 3rd contract to, as long as they can play, considering they can play. Sheldon Richardson, we would love to keep him around. Now, part of it's money. Part of the reason we're trying to actively shop him right now is just because of the character concerns. So I like that fact. I was, take it for what it's worth, Pro Football Focus. I was recently just looking at some things that they had tweeted out about Marcus Maye. Missed only 1 tackle across 438 snaps last season, 4th highest tackling efficiency amongst FBS safeties in 2016. And apparently, in terms of catch percentage allowed, he was number 2 in terms of catch percentage allowed, only allowing 31.6% of passes to be caught.
Yeah.
So based on that, because I got to kind of go off numbers and stuff and what I'm hearing from other people, because I haven't seen them with my own eyes, that's intriguing. You couple those stats in both the run game and the pass game, because, again, we want versatility in today's NFL. Combine that with a high-character guy, that to me says, okay, this isn't a bad pick. Would I have made this pick here? No, but I'm going to hope that the Jets know more than me.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to you, but I hope Mike McCagnon and Todd Bowles know a little more than you about the draft. What I'll say about Marcus, I've actually been watching this dude for a very long time. Grew up like 10, 15 minutes away from me down the highway, Melbourne, Florida. They're kind of rivals in football, so I didn't root for him for the first part. He committed to Florida, so I rooted for him there, and now he's going to play for us here at the Jets. And high character doesn't even start. Dude's never been in trouble. He's a captain for, I think, 3 out of his 4 years, kind of like Jamal Adams. So he's just one of those guys you want in your locker room. And then his play, I'm going to be honest, he bailed out Tease Tabor so many times throughout the, I think, 2 years that they were together, at least in both starting roles. Tease, that speed, why I have Tease so low in my mind, and then we really saw it at the Combine, that 4.9 speed. Marcus was able to come over the top a lot of times, and the Gators had this thing, so they had the get the ball board. It was like one of the whiteboards like I had behind me. They had on the sidelines, everybody wrote their name, they got an interception. Marcus Maye's name was on there quite often. He was always getting the ball, either recovering fumbles, interceptions, forcing fumbles. The dude is a playmaker, and I think he's kind of like Jamal Adams. He checks off most boxes. The one thing I think that separates him from guys like Malik Hooker and Budda Baker, because he was tied for second with Budda Baker in my free safety rankings, is athleticism. I don't think he's as fast as guys like Malik Hooker and Budda Baker, but everything else I think he does exceptionally well, and I think it's a really good pick at 39 and an instant starter.
And, you're telling me that, high character doesn't even begin to describe who this guy is.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Leader.
And just think to the Patriots. They're speaking of Tease Tabor, he was just selected by the Detroit Lions. So another Florida corner going off the board. So officially, I guess all that big Florida secondary is gone now. And supposedly the Jets, he could have been a target for them had he slipped to them in the 3rd round. Anyway, continuing with the high character talk. I mean, just take the Super Bowl, for instance. The Patriots are always known for the most part, bringing in high character guys. That's pretty much a given for them. Now, every now and then they'll take on kind of a douchey type of guy, only if they have immense talent.
Yeah.
But the reason why they'll do that is because they already have so many good high character guys in that locker room.
Yep.
And when you take, for instance, the Super Bowl, it could have been very easy when you're down 28-3 with 10 minutes left to go in the 3rd quarter, whatever it is, to just, mail it in, give up.
Yep.
But, you got guys like Julian Edelman. You got guys like Tom Brady. You got guys like Chris Long on the sideline saying, listen, let's go. And versus if you have like a cancerous type of guy who's not a high character, puts his head down, that's infectious. And personally, having played football, having been in a locker room, I had people come up to me. I was known as that type of guy. I was not super athletic, but I think people would say that I had high character. And I had people come up to me. And, my senior year, we played in the state championship game, and we did not have a lot of athletic guys. I remember some kids coming to me years later, calling me on the phone saying, hey, listen, man, you were one of the captains of the team. How did you keep everyone together? And that to me, that really kind of told me, wow, I guess I did have kind of a big impact on the team. We weren't super athletic, but we had a good amount of good leaders, and I like to think that I was one of them, being I was a captain. And that type of energy is infectious, and it does spread throughout a team. I'm not going to say it's more important than talent because, if you don't have talent, you're just not going to be good in the NFL. And speaking of character also, did you read that Jamal Adams piece, Monday Morning Quarterback, Andy Benoit? Did you get a chance to read that?
Jamal Adams? I don't believe that crossed my timeline, no.
I'll send it to you. You got to read it. It's amazing.
Indulge us in it.
Andy Benoit sits down with Jamal Adams, and they're watching film. And they're only supposed to watch for about an hour or whatever, and they go on more than an hour. And eventually, they're using the offensive lineman's room. And Jamal Adams is like, oh, well, listen, I want to keep watching with you. And he's like, well, we can go upstairs. And they go upstairs. They go into some other room. And then they're watched for an additional 2 hours, all because Jamal Adams wants to watch more. And the way he watches film, he's pacing back and forth. And he's like, oh, man, I should have done this here. And I could have done this better. Super critical of himself. And that extra type of dedication, you just don't see that from a lot of guys, especially non-QBs. So I love that.
Yeah, you got to love a guy who's going to come in, even with all of his talent. A lot of guys, they can come into the league, think they're the thing. They're the next great thing, and they can solely rely on their athleticism. I want a guy who's going to come in, have that great skill set, then go watch film 4 hours after they lose in a blowout game Monday Night Football and go see what he did wrong and improve on it next week. That's the type of guys I want. All right, now we're recording this in the middle of the 2nd round or towards the end of the 2nd round. I'm not really sure. A couple of guys I want to look at towards the 3rd round. I don't know if they've been taken. So, Kyle, I'm pretty sure you're seeing at least some updates. Tell me if some of these names are still available. Tim Williams, Tyus Bowser,
Bowser was taken. I don't know. I don't think Williams was taken.
All right, so who are you looking at in the third round? With the two
Derek,
picks?
the one name that's coming to my mind that might seem realistic, and supposedly the Jets have interest, when they actually spoke to Derek Rivers, he said that the Jets are one of the teams that have shown them the most interest. And here's why I like him. When we talk about edge rushers, we haven't had one since John Abraham.
Nope, haven't.
We got defensive ends, 3-4 defensive ends. We got 3 techs. We got 5 techs. But we don't have anyone who's going to be a true bender off the edge. We just don't have that. And that's what we need. We don't need a Carl Lawson, a guy who's going to win with bull rushes.
Yep.
Sheldon can win with a bull rush. Wilkerson can win with a bull rush. Leo can win with a bull rush. We don't need more of those guys.
Nope.
We need a guy that can line up in the wide 9, who can line up opposite. He can line up all the way outside the tight end, still have enough quickness and bend to get around the edge and get to the quarterback. And that's what Derek Rivers is. And when you look at Justice Mosqueda, who does a ton of work with defensive edge rushers, he's got his whole force player metric, and he's got certain athletic thresholds that you have to pass in order to be considered one of his force rushers. This is his guy. He said he's a first-round talent. Go and watch the film room with him and Matt Waldman. That type of bend around the edge, that's not really something you can teach. You just got to be physically gifted enough to be able to do it. I mean, it's just you can teach someone, proper hand placement, but you have to have a certain type of athletic ability and a certain type of size to be able to freakishly bend outside of an offensive tackle. And he's one of those guys who has it. The Jets are rumored to have interest. That's a huge need for us. I would definitely take him if he's there in the third round.
Yeah, I think edge rusher, like you said, is something that we haven't had in a fairly long time. Quickly, let's talk about what our in-division rivals did throughout the draft so far. Obviously, Buffalo Bills traded back, picked up a pretty decent group of picks, at least in my mind. What is your thought on that?
Okay, so they drafted Tre'Davious White. They ended up, because they traded back, they got an extra third-rounder this year, 91st overall. They got a first-rounder next year. That's the big prize for them. So they go into next year with 2 first-rounders.
Yep.
One of them is for the Chiefs, so that'll probably be a late-round pick, but still, it's still a first-rounder. And Tre'Davious White, cornerback from LSU. The reports on him is, from what I hear, he's kind of more of a in-your-face type of JMU guy, wins with technique, doesn't win with athleticism. And I haven't watched much on him, but supposedly he's more of a man corner, so that was a little curious to me because Buffalo's going to be very zone-heavy. But regardless, they needed a corner. So it's hard to hate that pick if you're them. Then they trade up. They ended up that third rounder they got in the trade from the Chiefs, they end up trading that as well as their second-round pick, 44th overall, to trade up to get Zay Jones, wide receiver, East Carolina.
Love that pick.
Now, you love that pick. I haven't watched him all that much. I saw him make a sick double move. Kind of a small school guy. This is Chris Johnson's school. But he's kind of, he was like a 4th rounder, people were saying at the beginning of the process. Goes to the Senior Bowl, tears it up, goes to the Combine. I think he tested pretty well from what I understand. And he just flew up the draft charts because of that. What do you have him ranked? 5th overall?
He's my 5th overall wide receiver. I believe Juju Smith-Schuster's still available. He was my 4th.
No, I'm pretty sure. I think Juju was taken. Maybe not.
Did he? Well, like I said, we started this in like the middle of the second round, probably towards the end of the second round, knowing how they prolong these commercials. So I guess I'll give you an official update with that. But go ahead.
Okay, but anyway, Buffalo really needs a wide receiver too. They've needed it for the longest. I mean, they're throwing to guys like Justin Hunter and other cast-offs like the heck is his name? I can't even think of the guy's name. He used to be the
Marquise Goodwin.
Oh, they were throwing a Goodwin, but he wasn't really all that much. They had Robert Woods. Robert Woods left in free agency to LA. Anyway, they really needed someone opposite Sammy. The question is, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, well, is Zay Jones much different from Robert Woods? And I saw people like Ian Wharton and others, Matt Harmon, who does a tremendous amount of work with wide receivers, and he works for NFL.com. He's got his whole reception perception deal. He was kind of saying, like, I don't know that there is much of a difference from him and Robert Woods. So take that for what it's worth. Miami Dolphins, they just picked up Raekwon McMillan.
Oh, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
And that also fills that. And again, we're talking about filling needs because one thing, I mean, the Jets, you could say, I guess they filled a need, but it seems like they definitely went with best player available. Now, for me, the Miami Dolphins, I think if they took Reuben Foster at 22, that would have been a steal.
Yep.
I actually was on a Dolphins podcast about 2 weeks ago, and I said, I'll be scared if you guys get Reuben Foster because you guys really need a linebacker. You got good defensive linemen. You got some good guys in the secondary. You need that. And supposedly McMillan tested really good at the combine, played at a Big Ten football school, a school that's known for producing linebackers. So based on what I hear, that's a good pick for them. And then they got Charles Harris, who a lot of people are saying is like a top 15 type of talent.
Yeah,
true edge rusher, can win with a variety of moves. So you got to like the Dolphins draft if you're them. And the New England Patriots, they haven't even had a pick yet, and they won't have a pick until the third round unless they trade up.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Patriots. They're always trying to get some sort of other talent that they think they can they think it's better than the draft. So I think so far all three AFC East teams that have drafted have done a fairly good job at addressing needs. And I think what most of them has come down to at this point, the need happened to fit the best player available, I think, in almost every scenario here. I love the Zay Jones pick. I consider him the next level, very good number 2 wide receiver. Good route runner, strong hands, big body, kind of relatable to Eric Decker. I don't know. It could be that type of guy for the Bills for the next couple of years. Pairing with Sammy Watkins, they have a pretty good duo right there at 1 and 2. And then the Dolphins, I really think they needed an edge rusher. Cameron Wake, I know he signed that 3-year extension a couple months ago, but what is he, like 35?
35, man.
Yeah, he's old. So eventually you're going to need a guy to replace him. I think, like you said, Charles Harris is one of the only true pass rushers. He can stand up if you ask him to, and he can put his hand in the dirt. He has good bend, and he's got good speed. It just seems that Missouri has the knack for producing that type of talent.
Fahey, on that point, you can never have enough edge rushers.
No, never.
And just playing defensive end, and Gary and I have said this many times on our show before because both of us played defensive end and defensive tackle in high school.
Yep.
You like Ndamukong Suh, I think it was last year, he only played like about 80% of Dolphins snaps. And that guy's getting paid quarterback money as a defensive tackle. But what's the reason why you only play him that amount? Because you want him to be fresh. Because you need such an immense amount of burst to get off the snap at full speed and get beyond a 300-something pound man. That requires a lot of energy. You don't have a lot of energy, you will not get to the quarterback. So you need to constantly rotate guys. So you can never really have enough edge rushers. So even though, like Miami, they just re-signed Andre Branch, who I don't even think is good, but they gave him $17 million guaranteed. So you got Cameron Wake, you got Andre Branch, you got a couple other defensive linemen there, but you still take Charles Harris because you can't have enough edge rushers.
If the quarterback is on his back, especially in the division of Tom Brady, and based off everything I could tell from the Dolphins, they got a swagger right now. They're coming for the Patriots. I don't think a lot of people realize it. I honestly think if they had a above average quarterback, not Ryan Tannehill, who's so shaky and you can't count on him, they might win the division if they had that quarterback, because I think their team's pretty good. And, you just never know with what they got going with Adam Gase right now. He seems to be turning out pretty good for them and a good hire. So watch out for the Dolphins this upcoming year. Wish I could say the same thing about the Jets.
I mean, Jarvis Landry, he'll say that he said we're going to sweep the Patriots this year. So he's talking the talk. The Patriots walk the walk. And I'm kind of with you. Dolphins, it's looking really good going forward. You got to like what Gase has done. You have to like a lot of the talent that they have there and the way that they played together last year. But I have a feeling that Tannenbaum will eventually screw things up.
Oh, yeah.
And
we know that all too well.
And I'm not ready to say that the Patriots are by far and away my favorite to win the Super Bowl this year.
I agree.
Now, we're talking next season. Brady's got to fall off eventually.
But I don't know about that. Avocado ice cream is keeping that man alive. That's
avocado ice cream, man. Those sleeping pajamas.
Oh, yeah. The UGG boots. I mean, the UGG sponsorship. I mean, he's got a system. This is what's keeping him on top, and everybody else is here.
Hashtag TB12.
Peyton Manning's getting sponsorships from Nationwide. He's gone. UGG boots. Brady's still here. Spin zone. UGG boots wins championships. That's what we're doing.
I mean, listen, criticize the Patriots all you want, but, they got stronger this year. They got stronger.
Definitely.
I mean, listen, 32nd pick, of course, you don't want to give up draft picks for players. But sometimes, listen, they got Cooks with a couple more years on his contract. It's not like it's a one-year deal. He's only 24 years old. he's going to be better than whoever they could have got at 32. You
I
put
agree.
him in that offense, that guy's got 4.33 speed. And the Patriots are known for getting yards after the catch. They get guys in open space. You get a guy like that in open space, he'll take a slant, he'll take a dig, he'll catch it over the middle. You're not there to tackle him immediately because you're concerned about Gronk, because you're concerned about Edelman. You give him a little bit of space, he takes the ball to the house. I'm not ready to say that the Dolphins are coming for the Patriots. Not at all.
Well, I'm just saying they have the talent, they have the coaching, they seem to have a swagger about them. All right, Kyle, I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you go ahead and give us all your social medias, because you and your brother Gary do a phenomenal job on your podcast. I'm a weekly caller and weekly listener, as I should say. So go ahead and give us all your social media.
Well, thank you, Kyle. AFC East Bros on Twitter for me. My brother's AFC_East Bro Gary. And you can find our show on YouTube. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, and pretty much any other place that you would download a podcast. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for coming on the first episode of Takeoff, putting your career on a little bit of a tightrope, coming on the show the first time. I don't know, ratings might not be that good. But thank you to everybody who's watching this on YouTube. Like and subscribe, and listen to the Jet Take every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, I'm your host, Kyle Fay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, go Jets.